Hello, everybody. It's Recotopia episode 153. Today's big recommend is all the movies that came out in 2024. Every single one of them were great. And we will condense 10 hours of conversation into 2. I'm Chris Atkinson, joined by Jeremy Scott.
Hello, everybody.
And joined by Aaron Dicer.
Hi-dily-ho, Oscarinos.
That's right. That's right. And we would also like to welcome chat who have come out here to watch us talk about a lot of movies today. Thank you so much for coming in and tuning in to what will be a longer show than normal. As I alluded to, we usually try to go around 2 hours on this. So let's get started on this one. Yes, go ahead.
I do want to mention right at the top that starting like a few years ago, we decided not to try to hit every single movie in existence. So we will be missing some, but I am going to stick around afterwards with the live audience and answer any questions about other movies you might want to chat about. So just like
yes, that's correct. If we had tried to go over the list that Aaron gave us, that was 196 long, I believe, and there was even one there that was missing. I was like, I'm not going to write that on there, but I was like, yeah. We cover what we want to talk about, what's big, what's been nominated for awards, and then in between a lot of other stuff that you may have not have seen or heard or whatever, but still needs inclusion on this list. But yeah, there'll be some big ones that we'll miss. There'll be some movies that actually made bank that are gonna I will go ahead and say, let's start this off. I am going to start off with the top 10 domestic box office and go through these. And I feel like this is a statement about us as a country right now. This top 10 list, it's bad, guys. It's bad. Okay. Look, I know everybody in the world seemed to like Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I was not one of them. That was number 10 on the year. It's better than 2. I'll give it that. But I don't know if I necessarily need to see any more of these adventures.
They're going to make more.
No, they're absolutely going to make more. And honestly, if for no other reason than an outlet for Jim Carrey to do Jim Carrey things, which I'm all for. I think he was the best part of this movie. He's the best part of this franchise. And, why settle for one Jim Carrey when you can have 2 is clearly what they thought while putting the script for this one together. So I had a good time with this, but I'm a sucker for Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey things,
and I will give it that. There are a couple of moments in there that I'll give this movie, but overall, I'm not into this stuff. I like the first one a lot, and then the other 2 have been bad. Here's one I did not see, could not get around to seeing. It's Mufasa, the Lion King, was number 9 on the domestic box office. So I didn't see it. Aaron, what'd you think about it?
It's pretty terrible. What's terrible about it is that I have actually been a defender of some of the Disney sequels and live action animations or whatever that they're doing. But there's just nothing interesting about what they decided to do with these characters. And overall, they made it more, I don't know if you ever saw Lion King 1.5, where it's like Timon and Pumbaa are basically, Mystery Science Theatering the Lion King. It's very Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, but for the Lion King, it's stuff that happened, to them during the movie. But they did that to this movie as well. They've got Timon and Pumbaa kind of being commentators on it. And I don't know, the tones just don't work together. It's just the songs are probably the the best part of the movie. The songs are actually pretty good, but yeah, no, I didn't love it.
Number 8 was Twisters, which was actually kind of a surprise. I don't know if it was a surprise hit, but it felt like a surprise hit because there wasn't anything really connected to that first movie at all. It had been nearly 30 years since Twister came out. And then Twisters came out, and we had, a guy who definitely sort of planted his foot as a big star, Glenn Powell, this year. Is one of the few people out there today. Like he came out with what 3 or 4 movies this year, and they were all like had pretty good success. But Twisters, I wasn't a big fan of this one. It was one of those when it came out. Everybody was talking, well, look how good this is. Good. This is a good old throwback to the blah 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 and whatever. So I went to go see it, and I was like,
yeah, I didn't like it.
That's the
either.
way I was about it. So, what do you think, Aaron? What do you think?
I enjoyed it. I think for me, this is a franchise that if it just does natural disaster in an interesting way, like that is the calling card for me. So there's a movie theater scene that I thought was really interesting and fun. I liked the chases. And I enjoyed hanging out with this cast. They were a fun hang. So like I didn't need a bunch out of it, and it doesn't deliver a bunch, honestly, but it delivered enough for me to smile and have a good time.
Jeremy, you saw this one?
I did. And I was correct. When I saw the trailer, I said that Kiernan Shipka is going to die because she's in almost none of the scenes in the trailer, and she did die.
Well, that was having, not seen the trailer. That was an interesting thing to me to start the movie off the way it starts off, because it's very smart casting with that first group of people in the opening scene, because you can see any of them, being in a movie like this. Yeah, I found that interesting. But,
yeah.
Number 7 was probably the first big hit of 2024. Not a surprise here at all. This is also in the Best Picture race, Dune Part 2, which was an incredible experience in theaters, a great IMAX movie. Still good on the home screen, but kind of like how Gravity was back in the day, where you had that awesome IMAX screen like just blowing you away, and then you watch it at home, it's like, oh, kind of reduced just a tad bit. But Dune Part 2, I think, really did deliver quite a bit.
Yeah,
what do you think, Jeremy?
I was just okay on the first one. I've never read these books. I've seen the previous film version. It did nothing for me. And I was just kind of like okay on the first one. My brother was like, oh, it was amazing. And so I went into the second one not expecting much at all, and I loved it. I don't know what it did different than the first one to make me vault it up that much higher. But I've seen it probably 4 times at this point, and it's still engaging all the way through. Yeah, I think he can make these as long as he wants at this point. Everyone's lining up to be in them. There's no end of source material to extrapolate. Yeah. So, I think they're going to start shooting the next one next year. Is what I read. So,
yeah, I think the reason 2 is so much better than 1 is 1, for as much of a beautiful spectacle as it is, and for as much as it kind of builds the universe well, there's not a lot of chance it gives for us to really attach to the characters. Like it's doing so much setup that it's hard. Like I come out of Dune 2 and now I know who these people are, why I'm rooting for them, why I'm rooting against them, why I like them, why I don't like them. The transition of the Chalamet character is really interesting in Dune 2. Awesome. And brings the movies to a place where you go, oh, this is what you're saying about this character. And it's not, he
tried to tell them.
Yes, he did. So I think that's why 2 is so much better. I mean, they do feel a little Lord of the Ringsy in that's really one movie. Those, these first 2, I feel like are really one film in a lot of ways. But yeah, the second half is great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's see. The number 6 of the year. This floored me. I did not expect this to be this huge, but Beetlejuice. Talk about something that had it's a 36 year hiatus between sequels. I didn't think anybody cared about the original Beetlejuice enough to like go out to this in droves. And man, was I wrong. Number 6 box office.
Yeah, I actually, okay, so I wrote for our video about this movie. And confession, I had never seen the original Beetlejuice. So before I watched this new sequel, I went and watched the original Beetlejuice, and I hurt Jonathan's feelings on the company Slack because I said, "What the hell?" And so, yeah, I did not enjoy the second one, largely because it's the first one all over again. In many ways, it hits a lot of the same beats. The final climax is they need Beetlejuice's help, and so Winona Ryder agrees to marry him if he helps. And I didn't have a great time. Sorry.
I enjoyed this movie a decent amount. I just hated all the plot threads that didn't go anywhere, and an absolutely criminal underuse of Monica Bellucci and and what her character was supposed to be for this movie. I just thought they kind of kept shoehorning everything that they could in this. I enjoyed myself. I can recommend Beetlejuice, but my God, man, there's a lot of mess in this.
It is a very messy, enjoyable movie. Yeah, that's exactly what I would say, Chris. Like it just, you're right. It does absolutely nothing with half of the things it introduces. And it just feels like a lot of spaghetti against the wall, and then not waiting to see if it sticks or not. They're just moving on to the next thing. It's Michael Keaton doing Beetlejuice things, which is fun. So that's, so I had a good time. But it's also interesting to see Winona Ryder come back to this character at this time in life, and who did Lydia Dietz become, like, is an interesting idea that, again, I don't think the movie ever really necessarily grapples with in a hugely meaningful way, but it's interesting to see. So yeah, I'm completely
well, obviously she became a juror in the runaway jury, Aaron. That's what she became.
That's right, that is what happened.
What other 35-year-old Michael Keaton roles can we get him back to? Because he's played Batman again, and now he played Beetlejuice again.
Mr. Mom. Well, he actually already did Mr. Mom this year too, because Goodrich was another movie that
I was going to say Goodrich is fairly Mr. Mommy.
Mr. Mom. It's not the comedy Mr. Mom, but it's still got the same kind of plot.
I mean, the answer is multiplicity. That's the answer.
Yeah.
We need another. Need to clone that movie.
Happy Steve.
Number 5 on this list is Despicable Me 4.
Oh, fuck it.
You probably didn't even realize a Despicable Me came out this year, but it made bank just like it always does. And I'm checked out on this series. It's not for me. I realize this at this point. These movies are not for me. This time they try to do something, I guess, fun by putting Will Ferrell in as a villain, but like,
he's terrible.
I don't know. Yeah.
How do you mess up Will Ferrell? I'll tell you how. You put him in an animated movie and have him try to do a crazy accent. That's how you mess up Will Ferrell. Like, he doesn't even get to be Will Ferrell. Yeah, this movie's bad.
Yeah, it's bad, and yet it's got such a strong, it's got such a strong, I guess, goodwill with everybody that they still continue to go out, and it's slammed. I think that's 361 million here alone is unreal. Now we do have some inflation and guiding that up a little bit, but still, that's still a lot of people went to go see a movie that barely anybody, I think, remembers came out.
Yeah. Well, and they can also hide the fact that I don't know why they'd want to hide it, but this is actually the 6th movie in the franchise, not the 4th. Even though it says Despicable Me 4, this is the 6th movie because there's 2 Minions movies. So yeah, it's wild.
Number 4, another movie I did not get around to seeing, although I saw its first movie just for the idea that I might see the second one. Moana 2 was number 4 in the domestic box office, and I swear, like, did we hear anything about this movie really? Like, it came out during Thanksgiving, and then somehow it's number 4 in the country. I don't know, and I heard it was bad too. I heard it was bad.
Everyone has told me it's bad. I cannot tell you how glad I am I do not have children right now, because this kind of shit would get me down if I had to watch like what I've heard Moana 2 is like, or these Despicable Me movies, man. But I think Aaron's the only one that saw it.
Yeah, no, it is bad. It's probably my most, well, I have to do further thinking about this. It's definitely one of my most disappointing movies of the year because I love Moana. I think Moana is an incredible film. And this movie has absolutely none of that energy aside from the characters that I like from the first one. Okay, you brought the characters back. I like those characters. Cool, but everything else is just a waste, including the music. And the music from the original Moana is so good. But yeah, anyway.
It's funny. If I had seen this movie the first movie back in 2016, I would not have been able to pick up on the Lin-Manuel Miranda-ness of it because I had not seen Hamilton. But I don't believe by at that point. And watching it now, I was like, "Whoa, he's really got a signature style, doesn't he?" It's
Yeah,
like
he does.
it just really kind of infects that movie. Number 3, and this is one I don't mind. This one also in the Best Picture race. Wicked. Got it's a Broadway adaptation movie, which is a part 1, which I'm not a big fan of. But I think ultimately delivered what everybody wanted to see from it, who were fans of the musical, and it of course ends on a moment that makes sense. Although still, I am not a big fan of, because the show is 2.5 hours on itself, or 3 hours,
This
even
movie
that.
is longer than the show.
The first half, is longer than the entire Broadway show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So so that doesn't make any sense. However, I did enjoy myself in this, and I did quite like it. So what did you think of this, Aaron?
Loved it. One of my favorite movies of the year. It's no secret that I'm a musical guy. Like, I like musicals. In fact, my favorite movie of all time is a musical. So I love it when when music is involved. I love the elevation of that emotionally. I think music does something for me personally, emotionally, that I really, really like. And the songs in here are really good. It's no surprise that this has been a hit on Broadway. This is the first time I've seen the material. I have not seen the show on Broadway. So going into this, I was pretty blind as to where they were taking this story. And I think the movie has lots of Easter eggs, lots of like ties to the original movie, but they don't seem to be too invasive to me. Like, it doesn't seem like if you don't know the original Wizard of Oz that you're going, oh, I'm missing something here. Like, it seems like they're just kind of part of the fabric of this new thing. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought Cynthia Erivo, I've been a huge fan ever since Bad Times at the El Royale, and to see her in this is phenomenal. Ariana is just a master impressionist. So her ability to basically do her name just slipped my mind.
Kristen Chenoweth.
Yes, Chenoweth is not surprising but awesome to watch. So I thought yeah, everybody was great and I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought Ariana was really good. Really impressed with her acting ability. I already knew she could do musical impressions because she's done them on Fallon or whatever. Did not know she had the acting chops. And she was probably the most memorable part of the movie for me. The music, as you say, is good. What's next on the list?
Funny you should ask that, Jeremy, because it's Deadpool and Wolverine pulling in the number 2 of the year. I watched this movie twice in theaters. It wasn't because the first viewing was so good I had to go watch it again. It was just one of those things where you have people who want to see it after you've already watched it, and you just go ahead. I enjoyed my first run through this, so I'll watch this one. I believe that I really, really, really enjoy this. There's enough in here that is funny that I can say this is good. Is it, is it something that I want Marvel to be like all the time? No. Do I think this Deadpool shtick gets old really fast? I mean, this is their third movie, and the second one didn't do any. And remember, that second one was like not even that big of a hit, and then they put Wolverine in there. Now suddenly everybody wants to watch it again. But I don't know, man. I think the shtick gets old after a while, and now maybe Ryan Reynolds is getting a little bit of public dusting from this stuff with Blake Lively and all that. That's another thing that's kind of like sort of.
Why in the hell did he go on that SNL show and make a joke about that? That
no
boggles
idea.
my mind. That's
always been his style, though. By the way, he anytime he's in, like, he just he gets front facing,
this is the
snarky
first
about
time
it.
He's never cracked a joke about something that he's in the middle of a lawsuit about.
No, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
I haven't seen this movie. I have no energy. I will eventually watch it. But for me, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman just oversaturated themselves completely in the build up to this movie. And this is partially my fault because the CinemaSins Twitter follows them. And so I would see their posts. Whereas if Aaron doesn't follow them, he's probably not thinking they're oversaturated. But I am so sick and tired of seeing their faces. I'm sorry. I need them to go away for 3 or 4 years, and then I'll be excited about them again. The whole rivalry thing they've been doing for years, where they promote each other's alcohols and coffees and whatnot and pretend to be rivals. It's so saccharine. I'm sick of it. How'd you like the movie, Aaron?
I have a. Is it a movie? I can't decide if this is actually a movie. It's like, but it was some of the most fun I've had in a movie theater in 2024. Like, there's some of the moments in this movie are just hilarious and smart. There's some really clever, commentary they're doing in these movies in general, and in this one specifically, about the Fox universe, about Disney buying Fox. Like, all that stuff is central to, I'm gonna say, plot that's in this movie. But it's really just an excuse to crack jokes, and I enjoy jokes, and I especially enjoyed these jokes. There is one scene that I think elevates in a way. Actually, there are a few, but their fight scene in the car is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Because it's both this kind of metaphorical lovemaking scene, like, it's clearly meant to be like, the back seat of the car, we can't help ourselves, kind of thing, but with fighting each other, which is hilarious. But also Hugh Jackman in that scene and after that scene is doing like Oscar caliber acting, which I didn't expect in this movie. So I don't know. It's an interesting experiment because it really is. I don't know that it holds together as a movie, but it's enjoyable and fun, and it made me think. And I don't know. It's interesting.
And ultimately, out of this, Emma Corrin was what I enjoyed
great.
the most
out
of this. As Cassandra Nova is flicking her bean to the Enya soundtrack is probably the best line of the year, I think, in any movie. And I adored that. So yeah, it's weird. It's kind of not a movie like Aaron says, but at the same time, it's kind of it's pretty enjoyable. It can wear its welcome out. It's kind of a weird movie. It really is.
Is it on Disney Plus yet?
I would imagine so. I haven't checked, but it would surprise me
if I watch
it.
I don't think I'll pay to watch it. Is what I'm saying. But
yeah.
I see. Number 1 in the domestic box office was Inside Out 2, and I enjoyed this more than the first Inside Out.
Me too.
I know I'm in probably the minority in the country here, but I enjoyed the second one more than the first one, and I think it had more to say about how the building blocks of our memories contribute to whether or not we consider ourselves a good person or not. And I enjoyed the idea of like storing those bad memories away, like as if that's going to protect you in life. And the lesson learned is no, it doesn't. I love that so much. So anyway, I loved Inside Out too.
This is one of the few movies this year that actually got me teared up at the end, and I expected nothing from this because I merely like the first one. But yeah, the idea at the end that you have to embrace all of your decisions because that's who you are. That's who you are right now. It's really powerful, and I think profound. Not too many animated movies that bring you lots of laughs are trying to improve your mental health. But like therapists could make hay with this movie. And my personal therapy journey just happens to be trying to make peace these days with some of my stupid decisions in my youth. And I haven't been hiding them away. I've been doing something else with them. But the point is, this movie spoke to me in a way that I didn't expect, and I'm glad that it made that money.
Yeah. I mean, sure, it's no surprise that I love this movie as much as the first one's in my top 10 of all time. And this is vindication in many ways because it was always my go-to answer about what movie needed a sequel was Inside Out, because I just think there's so much you can do with these ideas. They hit it out of the park by finding another avenue with the sense of self that they could really mine for these things. What these movies do so well for me is I will listen to conversations that happen after them, with anywhere from 7-year-olds to 16-year-olds or whatever, and it's giving them a language to talk about their inner selves that I don't know that they'd have otherwise. Like, it's legit therapy that's happening during these movies. Like, they're starting to understand, and I don't just mean them, all of us, like myself included, is starting to understand, oh, okay, yeah, I agree with this idea of sense of self and how it develops and how we try to hide the things that we don't think are part of us, but they are part of us. And we need to, come to peace with those things. Add to that, I think it's written well. I think it's hilarious. I think the actual structure of the movie itself is really captivating and good. It's Pixar in my mind has never gone through a serious drought, and they just keep, at least every once in a while, every 3 movies at least, they'll knock me out with something.
That's the most interesting thing about Dicer, is to say that there's never been a drought in the Pixar canon.
Yeah. yes.
Because exactly. I think there has been several times, but used to be
like a 3-movie run.
Yeah, I think there's been a 3-movie run.
Okay, that'd be an interesting conversation. I'm clearly biased. I've been on.
What's funny is if you go back to the early aughts or the mid aughts, the conversation was they've never had a miss.
Yeah, I would have been right there.
And I think all of us knew, even in that moment, it's only a matter of time before they're going to have a miss. It's just math. It's going to happen. But for one
thing that I thought was going to happen, especially after they did Ratatouille and The Incredibles and all that, and it still hasn't happened, and I guess they never will. It never will, probably. I thought Pixar was going to start making more adult features, like not nudity and crap, but just like
adult films.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that's where they were headed. They were going to like start making some real dark PG-13 kind of movies, and they really haven't.
Fascinating. No.
So yeah, they never branched off into Dixar. Is what you're saying.
Don't want to see the Easter eggs in the Dixar picks. The Dixar picks? There we go.
Exactly.
There we go.
To kind of round out the top 10, so to speak, of the box office. And if the top 10 in domestic says something bad about us as a country, well, it's not much different worldwide. But there are a couple of movies that entered the top 10 again.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah, that was a classic internet fail right there.
Well, I suppose we'll just keep going until he comes back. Do you have any idea what movies are in the international top 10?
The worldwide box office?
Domestic?
No, but I could look it up. But no, we could wait till he gets back for sure.
Yeah,
I'm just still trying to think about like which 3 in a row from Pixar were the worst 3 in a row. That's an interesting philosophical.
What 2 movies are on either side of Onward?
Onward's great. You do not get to say Onward's a bad movie. Onward's
I don't
amazing.
like Onward. There was Luca. Was that one?
Yeah.
Soul was okay. What was the one? Elemental? That was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, Elemental was recent. All right, let's see. We've got a new Chris here.
There he is.
There he is.
All right. I don't know when I cut out there.
You were starting to talk about worldwide box office, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So going into the worldwide box office, I don't know what it says about, I mean, if I said the domestic box office was a bad thing for the United States, the worldwide box office is, I guess, equally damning of the entire world, because 8 of the 10 movies that I just mentioned are in the top 10 of the worldwide. Also, they had room for Kung Fu Panda 4 in the top 10 worldwide. I don't even remember Kung Fu Panda 4. I watched it. I don't remember a damn thing about it. It's something that has long left its lost its welcome, I think. So I don't know. What do you remember anything about Kung Fu Panda 4, Aaron?
I think it's the one. I think it's the one they brought back all the villains from the other movies, and it just felt like a retread of every single Kung Fu Panda movie.
Right. Yeah. That's right. And then Godzilla and Kong, or Godzilla X Kong, Godzilla Twitter Kong, the New Empire. I hated this movie. Another like kind of like semi surprise hit, I believe, after Dune came out. And I mean, you know, these movies, Godzilla and King Kong, they make a certain amount of money, but this one, man, that one made no sense to me. Nothing in that movie made sense to me in as far as plotting or whatever. They're already under the earth, but then there's a subterranean part of the already under the earth.
Is this like the first or second time they've made a movie with them fighting each other? Because
second.
Okay, because in the first one, don't they go down into the center of the earth and find like Kong land or some shit?
They do. Yeah. But in Godzilla X Kong, they go back to that place.
Okay.
And then there's yet another part of underneath that is a thing. And then there's like a whole thing where there's this race of people that can communicate with this one little girl, and it's telepathic, and I don't know, man. I don't know.
But Chris, monsters go smash.
Like, why is that all it takes? Man?
Seriously though, Aaron, this is the thing that people would tell me about Transformers, right?
Sure.
It's just robots fighting. I was like, okay, can't that movie be an hour and a half and not 2 hours and 45 minutes? That is what I always say about that.
Can it be robots smashing and not a guy who carries around a laminated card about the statutory age difference?
Right. So that sort of rounds out the top 10 box office. We can rattle off some others that are in the top 20 later, but I want to get into some other stuff now and sort of get into the kind of the movies that we saw, Aaron, Jeremy, and I saw this year that we wanted to mention. And so I'm going to go down this list, and everybody sort of picked some things that they wanted to see. Let's start with The Wild Robot.
Ooh, yes. I adore this movie. This is probably my favorite animated movie of the year, which is saying a lot considering how much I like Flow and what I just said about Inside Out too. It's just it's got some really powerful themes, I think. Probably helps that I watched it with my brother and his wife, who were at the time about to send their second child off to college. I like the animation style. I love Pedro Pascal's character and the humor he brings to it. And I love how nobody in that movie it didn't sound like Pedro Pascal to me. The robot didn't sound like Lupita Nyong'o, but it was. Yeah, this is probably in my top 5 of the year. Love.
Yeah, I highly enjoyed it too, and it was an unexpected message about motherhood being thrust upon you and what you do in that situation, and everything. I was not expecting that kind of a big message to happen in a movie like this. I was just expecting, hey, it's a robot that's out in the jungle. What do they do? You know, and so that's what I thought. But I really, really, really enjoyed this. I can't remember. It might have been Aaron who recommended it, and I went out to the theater and saw it and everything. So I was very, very impressed with this one.
It's so good. It's so beautiful. I have a little. My wife and I finally did a UK trip this year. We've been wanting to do a UK trip for a long time, and we went and saw this beach that has these natural hexagonal columns that just come out of the water. It's one of the most crazy cool geographical things I've ever seen in person. Well, they based the beaches and stuff in The Wild Robot on that beach. And so, they really took their time finding like the real beauty in nature, and the animation style is impressionistic in like the backgrounds and stuff, which I I thought was interesting. So it's beautiful. It's certainly beautiful thematically. The performances are great. Yeah, this is high quality stuff.
I think I don't know if this is a trend or if this is something that's always been happening for the past few years or it's something that I just finally noticed. I don't know, but it felt like animation really killed it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, despite the fact that we still have Despicable Me 4 of the world getting in the top 10 box office, we have a lot of stuff where people like this seemed like studios decided we are not going to try to emulate Pixar with all of our computer animation. We're going to make our own animation. Now they've been kind of doing that. The Spider-Man movies, the animated Spider-Man movies have been doing that and whatever. But like it seemed like a lot of studios did that this year, and it's come up with some really good results. I'd like to keep it in the animated robot section because there were 3 movies that were really good this year. And one was Robot Dreams. Talk about another one that I didn't expect would have like this tremendous message to it and everything. But like that movie is phenomenal as well. I mean, like, where are these movies come from? A completely different animation as well here. But yeah, it's just the simple story of a dog and his robot, and he leaves the robot out in the sun too long on the beach, and then the beach closes and he can't get the robot back, and he spends this whole movie trying to get the robot back. Of course, the robot has the titular dreams that we are see in the movie, but like I really enjoyed that as well. Did you guys saw Robot Dreams, right?
I haven't seen Robot Dreams yet.
I did. It was one of those weird ones for me that I wasn't sure to put it on the list for this year. It came out this year like wide, but I couldn't remember if it came out in time in 2000, the year before, like which year it goes with. I hate trying to figure that stuff out, but it's worth the conversation because it's so beautiful and meaningful, and it's one of those that is just not completely but mostly dialogue free, that you just feel the emotion of it. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't know if it was 2023 or 2024 either. There's a lot of those that come out that are just kind of like in that weird zone. James in the chat says it was for Oscar consideration last year.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So we may have said a 2023 movie here. Eat it. But one that did come out last year that I knocked on my ass how good this movie was Transformers 1. I couldn't believe how good this was. I remember seeing a standee in a movie theater for it, and at first I just thought this was a continuation of all the other Transformers movies that they've made because it didn't look specifically, didn't look very different to the other ones because those movies are basically animated in themselves. But this is a full-blown animated movie, and it's I don't know if you consider it a throwback or what, but like the adventure in this, I was really impressed with this movie. I really enjoyed it. I was like, I can see why it didn't hit the box office well. It didn't get advertised well. It did feel like it was just another one of the Michael Bay tree of Transformers. This ain't no Michael Bay tree Transformers though. This is really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah, this should have been the first Transformers movie, and I don't even mean anime. I mean the live action version of this would have blown me away as like the Transformers 1 kind of thing. Which, hey, that's the name of the movie. So that works. So yeah, it's good storytelling, which we haven't seen a lot in the franchise so far. And it's really good world building. Like there's some really interesting stuff it's doing with the origin of these robots in disguise. So yeah.
Yes. Let's see. Let's look at some more here. Let's see. There's a lot of Oscar nominees. Okay. Well, since we're still on animation here, let's talk about Flow. A movie that is nominated for not only Best Animated but Best Foreign Language Film, I believe, as well. And Jeremy came on here raving about Flow, and I saw it not too long after that. And yeah, this is another just spectacular animated adventure that just stays with you forever and ever and ever after you watch it.
Yeah, there are 2 movies this year that have no dialogue, and hopefully we'll talk about the other one in a little bit. Because
we will.
I begged you to. But this film's got balls to do that, right? We don't know where humans are. We don't even know for sure this is Earth. It's very Earth-like, but there are no humans, and there's a flood, and there are some animals, and they have to try and survive. That's basically the movie, and it's gorgeous. He made it with a free animation program, I believe it's called Blender. It's just an incredible accomplishment. The way that it tugs at your human emotions, watching these animals trying to survive. I can't get enough of it. I adored it.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's a tone poem kind of movie where you kind of have to lock into the tone and style of the movie. It feels very much like you're playing a video game. Like this could be transitioned into a video game so easily. Like I think of the scenes that would become the actual gameplay parts of this movie. But yeah, it's just a simple tale of adventure and survival through the eyes of a cat.
Go ahead, Chris. You look like you were about to say something.
Well, I just thought it was interesting that the animals basically act like animals, like animals would in this thing. They add just the slightest bit of human reasoning in them, but not so much that it's insane, but like enough to where it's like they have to get through this adventure somehow, and so like they just a little bit of problem solving in their brains in there, and it's just a slightly off kilter what we really are on planet Earth. But I thought that was fun. They didn't go so far as to like have them communicate and like talking like English and stuff to each other and all that type of stuff. But anyway, what were you going to say?
Which a Pixar movie would do probably. I wonder, without getting too spoilery, do we think that it's clear at the end of the movie what has happened or what is about to happen, or do we think it's ambiguous?
I mean, I guess it would depend on what you mean. Do you mean about the whale?
No, I mean about yeah, I don't really want to spoil anything, but I kind of think the film hints at the end that it's about to all happen again.
I see.
And my wife,
I see what you're saying,
wasn't quite as sure, and so I wondered if you guys had opinions about.
I didn't catch that at all. I'd have to watch it again to kind of perceive.
Well, when we get
so
done, sometime later, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Sorry,
all right, cool.
Not good to bring up.
Let's look at and here's a movie that I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts on, and because I think I watched this under circumstances that I didn't appreciate it fully, because I saw The TV Glow is a movie that I enjoyed the journey. I don't think by the end of it I was like over the moon about it. Now IMDb's rating on this is under 6, so maybe I'm not alone on this, but it seems to have gotten a pretty big cult following over the past year, and like there's people who consider this one of the best of the year. So what were your thoughts on I Saw the TV Glow?
I loved it. I loved the journey. I think I'll borrow Aaron's phrase. I think it's kind of a tone poem. It's kind of a mood movie, and I was in the right mood to receive what this movie was giving me. I think it's trippy. I think it helped that I was not 100% sober when I watched it. But yeah, I think there are I think you could teach this movie really well in some college courses. I think there's a lot of important themes here about what it's like to feel like you don't belong in your own body. And that kind of imagery was powerful for me. Aaron?
Yeah. I think it's really beautiful. I love the metaphorical aspects of the movie. There's a lot of stuff this movie is doing. I think my interpretation, and it seems pretty blatant with trans life, trans issues. You know, the idea of what it means to understand yourself, identity. Like, it's dealing with these things in really deep and meaningful ways. It isn't narratively as interesting to me. Like, the story didn't grab me necessarily in the way it might grab others. It's very Lynchian, honestly. This feels like if David Lynch had been born, 30 years later, this is the kind of movie he would have made. So, take that for what it's worth. Maybe you like Lynch, maybe you don't, but it has that kind of mystery to it of like, what does everything mean? And so those conversations are always interesting.
Another movie that I wasn't huge on, I enjoyed it for the most part, but by the end of the year, I heard some critics saying this was their favorite of the year and all that and whatever, is Challengers. I was not a big fan of this movie, but it feels like I'm kind of in the minority on this one.
Well, not with me. I've seen it twice. I liked it more the second time through, because I think I was able to focus more, pay more attention. I don't know what this movie is trying to say to me. I do not know what the hell she is leaping out of her chair and cheering for at the end of that movie. It feels to me, I could be wrong, happy to be proven wrong, but I feel like a lot of the tennis balls are CG and it's distracting. I will say the score was really good. There you go.
Yeah,
Aaron,
score.
Tell us why you liked it.
This movie should have been called Love, Love. That's my first thing I wanted to say. No, I actually loved this movie. I think what connected to me the most is this idea of the of how we perceive relationships, both how we separate them into friendship and romance, and how maybe those things are messier than we like to believe, and the way it speaks to the jealousy of relationships, the idea of if you connect to somebody in a different way than you connect to me, that's a statement on me. Like, that's, that hurts me in some way. The celebration at the end is my favorite part, so I'm glad you mentioned it.
Oh, no.
Well, the hug's my favorite part. The celebration is part of it, in that she is having a revelation about this is what she wanted the entire time. She didn't want either of them to herself. She understood the beauty of them together and wanted them to understand the beauty they have together. So it speaks to this idea of a love triangle and kind of the drama of a love triangle from a different perspective of what if there is positivity in each of the sides of that love triangle, and what if we need to do a better job at seeing how, and the tennis in this movie is a metaphor as much as it is a narrative driver, for relationships, for the volley of relationships, for the beauty. I think she even has a speech at one point about how tennis is like sex to her, and how that, there's this, the grunting and all of this kind of stuff. So in some ways, I don't think the movie is ever explicitly stating that they have a sexual desire for each other that goes both ways. What it is saying, I think, in the way that it's presenting it, is that when they play tennis, they understand what that part of themselves for each other feels like, what it looks like. So I just think it's a really deep, interesting way to explore love triangles, the idea of relationships, and all of that. So yeah,
I didn't like her.
Fair enough. That's a perfectly valid criticism.
She makes bad decisions and she manipulates people.
She does.
I don't want her to be happy.
Well, I think she's realizing I think she's realizing a lot in that last moment of even about herself. But anyways, I could be wrong.
I think that some of these movies, like we talk about how we feel about them here and now after having seen them once, and in cases of like Challengers, and I saw the TV Glow, saw them months ago. it's these movies always have another chance later on down the line to win me over or whatever. It's just like the first initial. A lot of these movies are not good first initial runs. They might make you like interested in watching it again someday or whatever, but like again, these aren't the final words. This is just the way we feel at the moment in 2025 about these movies we saw sometimes months ago.
Uh-huh.
And that's the way I feel.
Put this on my gravestone. Jeremy did not like the cheering at the end of Challenge.
Yep, never changing. Lock it in.
Okay, we're gonna get to a movie that I know Jeremy wants to talk about, and that's Civil War. Alex Garland's movie about photographers going through the country going through a civil war. You know, it's a pretty plain stated. But anyway, Jeremy told us that he wanted to say a lot about this movie, so here's your chance to talk about
this movie has grabbed hold of me and will not let go. I go back and forth on the title. I think you have to dig pretty deep for the title to make sense. I'm not sure it needed to be called Civil War, but I'm willing to hear Alex Garland's reasoning for that. But this movie is not interested in the Civil War. And the first time I watched it, I didn't know that. I thought I was going to watch a movie about an American Civil War. What this movie is a movie about war journalists, journalists in general, and what war does to them. We have why is her name escaping me right now? The gal from Bad Times, Kaylee Spaney. She is the young want-to-be photojournalist. She idolizes Kirsten Dunst, experienced, famous photojournalist, and she basically tags along as they're going to go to DC to interview the president before he falls to the Western forces. It doesn't matter. This movie is completely uninterested in what caused this civil war. Its timing is unique when it came out in the state of our country, and how many people like to throw that phrase around, and maybe that's why they chose the title. But this movie shows you that Jessie loses her soul in about 3 days. Kirsten Dunst tells her it's going to happen. She says there's no part of this that is a good idea. This is going to end bad. You think you know, but you do not. And she is right. And by the end of it, Jessie has been sucked into photojournalism mode. And I think what the movie is saying on the surface is you cannot document atrocities without it affecting you in lasting ways. But I think on a larger level, this movie is about life. This movie is about how just living life can beat the soul out of you sometimes, because it is so hard to look at the suffering around you and keep your head up. It's just like the key scene, it's crucial scene in the middle of the movie. They come upon a couple of snipers. They get fired at from a different sniper, and there's journalists. So they're asking the sniper, "Hey, which side are you on? Who's firing at you?" And the sniper's like, "I have no idea. Some guy in a house. He's shooting at me. I'm trying to kill him before he kills me." And that feels like what life in America has become for a lot of people. I'm going to do what I need to do, and that requires pushing that person out of the way. Every time I watch this movie, I walk away with more things it could be trying to say. The last time I saw it, I determined this movie is about capitalism and what capitalism does to us. It's been a long time since a movie has infected me this much. And I really am thankful that you gave me those 3 or 4 minutes to say my piece there. I think it makes one mistake that I don't like near the end. And I'll tell you about it privately because I don't want to spoil the movie. But probably, possibly my favorite movie of the year. We'll find out at the end of the show.
All right.
I don't have much to add to that. I have had the exact same experience. I call it the Alex Garland effect because it happens after every single one of his movies for me, including Men, by the way, where I come away going, I'm not exactly sure why, but I want to keep thinking about this movie so much. And so then I'll watch it again and I'll be like, oh yeah, see what it's doing there. Like he has this way of incorporating the deep and meaningful into the story so intrinsically that you're thinking about both at the same time. You don't have to separate them. I don't know. I just think he's a really deep thinker, which appeals to me. And you know, I was a philosophy major in college. Like, I love philosophy and thinking about these things. So yeah, I really dig Alex Garland, what he does with movies, and can't wait to see what he does revisiting 28 years later, because that could be interesting. So
he's also co-directing a war movie with an Afghanistan American Army veteran. And it's based on true details. I forget what it's called. Warfare? I think it might be called Warfare.
Yep.
I saw Civil War probably 3 or 4 times. And the scene that stuck out to me the most was the one where there was the town that had been unaffected by the Civil War. That part always gets me. Like, there was a town that just decided, we're not going to be a part of any of this. And they've successfully done that to a degree. And it's almost like the horror movie within the horror movie when you go into that town in that part. So yes, I enjoyed Civil War. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you did, Jeremy, but man, if you've seen it that many times, you've taken that much meaning out of it, I may have to watch it again myself.
It has the best use of music, opposite of what it's actually trying to show you. Like, there's the first battle that they document. After it's over, there's this just rollicking hip hop song playing, and we see 3 different perspectives. Kirsten Dunst standing up on a balcony, not really wanting to look because she knows they're about to execute these 3 guys. Kaylee Spaney goes, I better take a picture of that. I'm a journalist. And Joel, who's the cameraman, he's like loving it. He's loving the violence. He's jazzed by it. And while this hip hop, like, they just fire a goddamn Gatling gun at these people, and it's completely the opposite of what it should be. And then after somebody dies, there's a silent scream, and there's just almost this really pretty folk song playing, and you just see a character going. It's just I could talk about this movie for days.
Well, I'm glad that we got a good solid amount of time in on that one. It did deserve a lot of talk. Let's go further down on this list here for a second. Let me see what I want to do here. Let's go with September 5th, which is one that Aaron had marked on here. And September 5th is the story of the Israeli athletes that were held hostage by terrorists in the 1972 Olympics in Munich. And it was the story of I believe it was ABC, how they planned to cover the story, and how there was there's a sort of divide between ABC Sports and ABC News as to who should cover this. And once again, we have journalistic integrity being practiced by Peter Sarsgaard in this movie. Here's another one that I didn't know much about until it was nominated for a screenplay Oscar. And I thought this didn't get nearly as much play as it should have. I thought it was a really, really compelling movie. Aaron, this was one you marked. What do you say about it?
Actually, I think this is one you marked.
Did I mark it?
Yeah, I think so. I actually didn't like this one as much as most people did.
Oh, really? Go to hell.
Trying not to. So I liked the insight. I liked kind of learning about that from a different perspective and kind of what they were doing. And it just didn't click with me. And like we've said on several of these, sometimes it's just the moment you're in. I probably watched 4 other movies the day I watched this, and sometimes that can have an impact. And it wasn't vibing for me. It felt just like it was just happening, and I wasn't necessarily that interested. I didn't feel like I was engaged by these specific, characters, I guess would be the way to say it. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, this was what the movie Munich was based on. Was the aftermath of this, so you could watch those back to back
For sure.
But I found it really compelling, and I did mark this. I just saw that. I was looking at something else, and I'm going to go to that movie here in a minute, but because it has similar qualities to it. But yeah, I found it very compelling. Aaron is wrong, and
it's true.
He should watch this. He should watch this again. Although with an IMDb rating of like 7, it's not really like really like people are like loving it or anything. It's people are like, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. The one that he did mark is just above it. It's Saturday Night. And this one also has similar things because it's a scramble behind the scenes to get something on air, and the craziness that Lorne Michaels trying to get just a million things on done just before they air and everything. I actually watched the first episode of Saturday Night Live a week or two ago, and just was amazed at how many different things are in that. They narrowed it down to like, let's just have mostly live skits and maybe occasionally something that's filmed. And now, but this one back in the day, they had Jim Henson's Muppets. They had a film. They had skits. George Carlin wasn't in any of the skits. He just came out and did stand up every time he came out. So like, it was really strange. Anyway, Saturday Night, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, loved it. It's probably the award for the year of most non-Sorkin movie. It feels very Aaron Sorkin as far as like the walk and talks and the amount of characters and the banter. The way each performance is impressionistic, but not necessarily an imitation, is really impressive to me. I think the standouts are Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase, and also who was it that played Aykroyd? I thought he was great too. Anyways, Aykroyd and Chase were probably my two favorite performances. I think Gabriel LaBelle was probably looked too young to me for Lorne Michaels, although Lorne Michaels was really young when this was going on. He was very, very young, but that might be just an effect of seeing Gabriel LaBelle in the Spielberg movie before this, where he played, a high schooler, or whatever. I think it's funny. I think it's interesting. I think having Nicholas Braun play both Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman is just genius level casting.
Yeah.
He is completely both of those people in this movie, and I loved it. J.K. Simmons as Milton Berle is really fun in this, and plays on some things that we've heard about Milton Berle that the movie makes textual. So I loved it. Dylan O'Brien, by the way, plays Dan Aykroyd, and does a fabulous job at it. So I think this movie is just fun and interesting, and as a Saturday Night Live fan, I couldn't take my eyes away.
Another one that was marked on the list is a movie that I saw just yesterday. It's called Ghost Light, which is another phenomenal. This movie has almost nobody you've ever seen in it before. But there's a lot of these guys have like tremendous careers on their IMDb page. You probably don't know who they are. Ghost Light is about a construction worker who finds himself in a local community theater troupe that's about to do a Romeo and Juliet, there is a performance. There's two performances in Ghost Light from Keith Kupferer and his actual daughter in real life, Catherine Mallon Kupferer, and his actual wife, Tara Mallon. They all play a real family in this. That I felt like could have gotten Oscar nominations if this movie had been pushed a little bit more, or if somehow entered the public consciousness a little bit more. But I really enjoyed Ghost Light. This was like the last legs of movies I was watching. I was like, man, what a great movie this is.
I agree. It wins the award for a movie I don't hear anybody talking about that I think is just so deserving this year. I think it's phenomenal. I think for me, it's how it talks about therapy in all of its forms, like how art is therapy, how actual therapy is therapy. Like there's, lots of things that this main character is going through, that I've never seen communicated so clearly and so with so much empathy as this movie does. Just this gruff construction worker trying to deal with emotions, trying to deal with the fact that he is an emotional, like that there are these things inside him that need to be dealt with. I love it. I love it. This is the one I'll be shouting about to people who are like, hey, what's a movie in 2024 that I probably haven't seen? It's Ghostlight. See it. It's awesome.
Yeah, tremendous movie. I'm glad that you gave me that recommendation. Since we're at the hour and 10 mark, I think I'm going to start kind of going a little bit faster on some of these because we got some big ones still to talk about. But I do want to, if we do have a lot to say about those things, we can stop and talk about them a little bit. But going through this list, some more of stuff that, wanted to talk about. Let's talk about, I'll go through, Jeremy, I'll go through some of your list here.
Okay.
Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul.
Loved it. I don't feel like Aardman can do any wrong, especially when they're dealing with Wallace and Gromit as characters. We have a new voice. The voice of Wallace had passed away, and the new voice actor, I think, does an incredible job. And it's so chock full of sight gags. You could watch it 10 times and not see them all.
A lot of great movie gags. A lot of great like movie parody gags in here that you don't necessarily catch the first time. Yeah.
I love those garden gnomes. They're really, really funny to me.
They are.
Then we have another Glenn Powell movie, Hitman, that came out on Netflix. I actually enjoyed this. I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's not something I think is like awards worthy, but I think he's just exceptionally charming. And he's now finally, after years, he was in The Dark Knight. He's getting a chance to show what he can do, because the role here is not at all the same as what he does in Top Gun Maverick. He's just the gal in this. I can't remember her name. She's really charming too, and they play well off each other. Good chemistry. Weird that it's a Richard Linklater movie, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was not expecting that name to pop up at the end of this movie at all. I actually walked into this not knowing and saw the director. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I love it when a movie can give you something you've never seen before. In the notes app scene in Hitman is that for me in this movie.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen anything like that before that I remember.
It was really clever use of modern tech.
Yeah.
It looks like her name is Adria Arjona is probably this is probably her name that was in this as well. Here's one near and dear to my heart as well. Hundreds of Beavers came out last year early on. I got to see this in theaters. When I first watched when I started watching the first 10 minutes of this, I was like, oh no, what did I just get myself into? And then as it goes along, it washes over you and becomes one of the funniest movies you've ever seen.
Yeah, and really, really good example of grassroots marketing. They started showing this in festivals, I think in 2022, even maybe 2023, and built really good word of mouth. And then once it kind of started getting buzz on the internet, they've done a lot of clever stuff with Blu-rays where they have a wood book instead of a steel book, where you can get the Blu-ray, but it's in a wooden book. Really, really clever people behind this. Clearly inspired by, the early silent film people. But yeah, I haven't shown this to anyone who didn't love it.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Going further down, more Kaylee Spaney here. Alien Romulus was a surprise good sequel to the Alien. Yeah.
Finally, maybe it's the time period we're setting all these in, because this is between the two good Alien movies. And so maybe by default it had to be a good Alien movie. I really liked it. The couple choices I wouldn't have made, but other than that, it was really thrilling.
Yeah, I was. It kind of was a throwback, but also still pretty modern, and they mixed all that well together. I thought. I thought it ended up being really, really well done.
It's so
Yep.
the tension is so well done in that movie. Like that's the thing you have to nail about the Alien movies is just the creeping tension, and it's really well done.
Yeah. And then we have Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Was this the only movie you saw in theaters, Jeremy?
Yes. Listen, I'm all for Sean Baker and his quest to get back to a 90-day window, but it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for a lot of disabled people. It doesn't work for people who don't like crowds. I don't go to the theater anymore if I can help it. And in this instance, I only went with friends to a tiny, tiny auditorium. And this is maybe was exactly as good as I was hoping it would be movie of the year for me. Because it doesn't do what Fury Road did except for one of its chapters, and it does it just as well. But then it allows them to do other things set in this world, other set pieces, the Bullet Farm and Gastown, Chris Hemsworth eating it up. It's in my top 5 of the year.
Yeah, I think the first time I watched it, I was a little disappointed. Like I liked it, but I was a little disappointed. Second time through, I'm right there with you. I don't know if I'm putting it in my top 10, but I really loved it.
I like it better than the one before it. So that's that. It to me, I just feel like it feels like the first movie. Like it's so weird. Like prequels usually feel like prequels. This doesn't feel like a prequel to me. It feels like the first movie and makes the actual first movie feel like a sequel. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but it's just so. I mean, other than the fact that it has stuff from the first movie at the end.
It's not super focused on like making a lot of like references and like wink wink and all that. It's more focused on telling the story of Furiosa. And again, I'm glad I saw it the second time because I was like, a little down on it at first.
Very satisfying hot tub time machine payoff with the way she ultimately loses her arm.
Yep. I'm glad how that movie came back in the vernacular because of Furiosa. Also, you mentioned this one as a small recommend a couple weeks ago, A Different Man.
Yeah, I was really affected by it. And sadly, I've seen that actor take a lot of taunting and stuff online this award season. Pearson. I went back and watched it a second time, and it still had me just wanting to think for a long time about when am I being me? When am I being a guy in a mask? It's just a lot of meat to chew on here.
Yeah, I loved this movie. This is a extremely unique experience to watch, and I was caught up in its vibe the whole way. I dug it from the beginning to the end. It was amazing movie.
Yep, good stuff.
Then we move on to another Netflix original, Carry On. I actually saw this recently as well. What did you want to say about this, Jeremy?
I just thought it was super fun, man. This movie makes so many winks at Die Hard. And if you are not a Die Hard fan, you would never notice, and it wouldn't impact the movie at all. But it is constantly winking at Die Hard and Die Hard 2 in the most playful ways. Everybody treats this seriously, which is why such a ridiculous premise ends up working. And it's got one of my favorite lines of dialogue all year at the end when she asks, "Where's the guy?" And he says, or she says, "Where's the gas?" He says, "It's in a sealed fridge." She says, "Where's the guy?" He goes, "Same fridge."
I enjoyed this. I thought it was interesting to see Taron Egerton in this role because I really only know him from Kingsman. I didn't see the Elton John movie he was in.
I didn't
but
he's in a great movie with Hugh Jackman about a skier.
Yeah. Eagle. Eddie.
Yes, Eddie the Eagle. Yeah. I am so impressed by Taron Egerton. He's on my radar for let's watch this career because he's so diverse and talented with the projects he picks.
But yeah,
and he's great in this.
seeing him from the cocky Kingsman self to this average everyday Joe guy was I didn't know who it was for a while. I was like, who
Oh
is?
yeah.
I've seen him before. And then I finally had to look at the IMDb to look it up. I was like, I don't know who this person is. Oh, it's Taron Egerton.
Bateman's great too, by the way, in Carry On.
Yeah, he
Carry
is.
On's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Also on Jeremy's marked list is Heretic.
Well, I only just recently saw this, but what a movie. My goodness. Now, it's tailor-made for a guy like me who's a preacher's kid that no longer goes to church because the whole movie, they're having conversations about the one true religion and how religions are passed down over generations and millennia. Hugh Grant, it's so sad to me that I read that he does not like acting because he is killing it the last 5 years. Almost everything I've seen him in, Wonka, Paddington 2, this movie, he's just eating it up and being in this movie really creepy by being really kind. And it's really effective. The two young actresses, Sophie Thatcher, I don't remember the other girl's name, are both great. Everybody does great acting in this movie, and it has probably my favorite shot in all of 2024 when it pulls up from the actual house through and becomes the model of the house that we've seen him playing around with. Just a killer shot.
Heretic is brilliant. Any movie that I get to hear Hugh Grant say, "I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo," I will gladly put on the list. No, I love this movie so much. I think it's brilliantly written and performed, and I know every single one of these characters. Like, not just from my own life, but I mean, this movie teaches me about them so quickly and so completely. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Juror number 2.
Take it, Aaron.
I mean, surprise Clint Eastwood hit, I guess. Like, I wasn't expecting a ton out of it, but it is so well crafted. It has one of my favorite endings of movies this year. I absolutely love the ending of this movie. The way it's the audio design on the ending is really interesting, and also what it's doing as far as where it leaves us. It's a great what would you do movie, a moral conundrum movie, which I always love those, and coming out of those and having conversations about, if you were this character, what would you do? Like, how would you handle that? So I would have handled it very differently, probably. But
well, one of the things is to not be in that situation. In the first
you
place.
would never be in that situation, Aaron.
Probably not. I don't know. So yeah, juror number 2 is, I mean, let the nonagenarians keep making movies. Like, it's great.
Very interested to know why Jeremy marked Kinds of Kindness down, because I hated this movie. So I'm looking.
No, I marked the wrong column, dude.
Okay.
I did not enjoy that. I was just trying to mark that I'd seen it. I did not like it. I had such high hopes because I like Poor Things. Probably my favorite of all of his movies to date. But no, I did not like Kinds of Kindness. I was merely trying to acknowledge that I'd seen it.
That's unanimous. I did not enjoy it at all either.
Yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos does it for me for the most part, but this and killing of the sacred deer and all that, I don't like that.
Yeah.
This one felt like a movie experiment, and it just didn't hit.
Yeah.
Love Lies Bleeding.
My God. I don't think this hit you guys as much as it did me, and I know I'm a Kristen Stewart stan. But I think I said on the Slack that this movie was giving me Lone Star vibes, the John Sayles movie we recommended early in Recotopia's run, because we have old murders in this Western feeling kind of town. The movie takes a pretty hard turn into the fantastical in the last 20 minutes or so, but I'm there, man. I'm loving it. I recommended it to a friend, and he wrote back, "How did she get so big?" And I said, I think it's a metaphor for how Kristen Stewart's character is seeing her now. But even if it's not, I don't care. I love it.
Yeah.
This movie is very interested in pushing the visual construct of filmmaking, which I love. That's my favorite part about this movie. It's also doing some really interesting things, in my opinion. This is my interpretation. of translating toxic masculinity beyond its general gender stereotype.
Yeah.
And so that was really fascinating and interesting to me. I don't think that it does enough with that personally for me to really dive into it. But it's definitely there. And yeah, so I didn't love it, but I liked it. I liked the experience, and I like thinking about this movie.
Maxine was a tremendous disappointment to me, considering the 2 movies that came before it. I enjoyed X. I really loved Pearl, and I thought this was going to be tied up in a pretty good 3rd movie finale. But ultimately, I just did not like this movie. I ended up I small recommended this movie. That shows you how things change over time. I small recommended this movie a few months ago, and then as I watched it again, the disappointment went further down for me. So did you marked this one too, but I guess you just marked it to say you saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the fuck I was doing where I was putting my X's. But yeah, I feel the same way you did. It was kind of a letdown after the first 2.
Rebel Ridge.
Loved it. This is my first time ever seeing this actor, who's now going to be in that Lantern show on HBO, which gives me a lot of high hopes. I just loved it. It's maybe not reinventing much. Because we've had a lot of movies where a guy has the special training. Basically, we know he can hand-to-hand combat anyone in any situation. But this movie goes deeper than that, I think. The way that it talks about race and power, and it's not just a beat 'em up. I think it has a lot of interesting things to say, and yeah, I really liked it.
I do think this movie does reinvent action a little bit, and maybe this is just coming from my pacifistic tendencies, but the man who can handle anybody in hand-to-hand combat is doing everything within his power not to hurt people.
Yes.
And that is really fascinating to me. And I loved, as a defining character trait to him, the parking lot scene is one of the greatest scenes of the year. It is so good, and yeah, this is a must-watch action film in my opinion.
Aaron Pierre is the guy's name that was in this movie. But yes, I enjoyed it quite a bit myself. I really liked it. We Live in Time.
You go, Aaron. I know you liked it.
But this is one that I'm guessing you marked because you saw it. So, you know.
I'll do better next year.
I'm happy that Jeremy has given me this stage to talk about We Live in Time. I am in the minority, I believe, on this. I loved it. I loved it too. Oh, great! That's wonderful. Yeah. That's right. I recommended it a few months ago. Yeah. Pugh and Garfield are so good in it. And I think the way it jumps around in time serves the story very, very well, and I think is expertly brings the audience to what they need to know when they need to know it. I think the birth in the gas station bathroom scene is one of the best scenes of the year. I think it's just seems so authentic and genuine, and there's so many cool moments there. Yeah, I found it emotionally engaging. I was connected to it the whole time. Really, really loved it.
Woman of the Hour.
Loved it. Anna
Kendrick. I like this too.
Anna Kendrick, I think, does a better job acting than she does directing, and I'm super impressed with her directing in this movie. She could have had a much heavier hand than she chooses. But I love the way this movie shows us the casual sexism that just that era was absolutely steeped in. And yeah, really curious to see where she goes next as a director.
Directing wise, the scene in the parking lot, another parking lot scene, by the way, but that scene in the parking lot after the show is over is one of the tensest things I've seen in a while, because it's all taken in one shot. I believe her trying to get back to her car before dude comes back to talk to her and everything. So this was a small recommend, I think, a while back, but good movie. All right, here's your turn. Sasquatch Sunset.
Yes, I'm so glad this movie exists, and I do not recommend you watch it, but I think you should watch it. This is a movie that this is a movie that has people in Sasquatch costumes doing Sasquatch things, peeing fucking eating, walking, and it somehow landed two of the biggest actors of our current time with Jesse Eisenberg and Riley Keough, who you never see or hear their voices the entire movie. What a fucking swing. I'm so glad I watched this movie and that it exists, but I don't think it's very good. So there you go.
Okay. I believe that's most of the ones you marked. The other ones are going to be Oscar nominees. So we'll go up to Aaron's mark off list that don't involve Oscar nominees, and that is The Fall Guy starting us off.
I just think this movie got forgotten. Like it came out early in the summer, and I think it didn't hit as hard as people thought it was going to, and people were expecting a little Barbie bounce for it, with Gosling and man, I thought it was really good. I think it in my opinion, was one of the best comedies of the year, and I just laughed all the way through it. I thought they were great together.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, my goodness, he's so funny in this movie.
He is. So yeah, I just feel like it's one of the kind of those forgotten gems that is going to stick out to me from 2024.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was way too long, but it was good. It was very enjoyable. Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1. This is a tragedy, I feel like, this movie.
It is. It's such a tragedy. Yeah. And the story is yet to be totally told on this. Like, we don't know. I mean, clearly Costner is devastated by how this process is going, because he as an artist, he's talked about this 4-part thing. He knows exactly what he wants to do, and he put so much of his own money in getting this first one done. And the second, because the second one I think is in the can.
I think
it is.
So like, when's it going to come out? Is it going to go to streaming? Costner wants it in theaters. Like, it's just a really interesting story. And the tragedy of it is, in my opinion, this first movie's really good, other than the Next Time on Horizon thing at the end. Like, this
is so bad.
It's so bad at the end. But as a movie, I was like, yes, we're back to like Costner, style Westerns. I just thought it was really good. So I'm really sad about kind of the whole story.
I didn't like it as much as you did, but I had too high expectations. I will say visually, it's a home run. Like, it is beautiful to look at, which I wouldn't expect anything less from Costner at this point.
Here's a movie I have not seen, Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this was a final addition to ones wanted to talk about, because Jeremy just saw it, and probably has some even fresher thoughts than mine on it. I just think it's I mean, is it bad to say it's a weird movie? Like, no, it's one of those weird. It's one of those movies that you're just like, okay, what were you on when you wrote this idea? But it kind of works, like, as far as a representation of what it means to look at life and death and what death looks like. I found it strangely emotionally compelling.
I was hypnotized by it. I really was. So just to give you a little bit of the premise, there's a girl, she's sick, she's going to die, and death shows up, and death is a giant talking macaw, the bird. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus is her mom, so the girl stalls death in several different ways because she wants to see her mom again before she dies. That's really all I want you to take the rest of that journey on your own, but I was shocked how powerful the movie ended up being for me.
Yep.
Here is I don't know if the movie itself is controversial, but everything around it since then has become super controversial. It ends with us, which I watched only because it's the only quote unquote original, I guess, movie, although it's based off of a book. I guess you could go as far as to say Wicked was an original movie, wasn't based on other movies. Everything's filled with sequels and remakes and whatever. But I watched it because it was like number 16 in the domestic box office this year. I don't know what to think about this movie, especially now that I've gotten all of this outside influence about what was going on while the movie was filming and everything. But I don't know if this movie did the job it sought out to do. Like, I don't know if it did a good job on that. What do you think, Aaron?
I don't either. I have a lot of mixed feelings on this movie. I think some of the particular scenes feel like really good, authentic representations of what it must be like to be in a situation like that. But I'm just not sure what the movie is saying overall, if that even matches how I was interpreting those scenes. I simply marked it, if for no other reason than has there been a movie in recent history where outside of the movie has been this much bigger than the actual movie itself?
Yeah.
Like the movie is secondary to the Baldoni stuff, the lively Baldoni stuff, just like the hit pieces that he supposedly did, and then she put her thing out through whatever magazine she put it out through, and then like now it's like, oh, now it's all going back to her, and then now he's put other stuff on social media about like voicemail message. Like I've never seen this level of general pop culture awareness about stuff around a movie in a long time.
Well, and I haven't seen the film, but aren't the themes of the film hauntingly similar to some of the themes of the accusations that have been leveled?
The gender dynamics, yes.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any
physical abuse
correct
going on. But that's the thing. Even the movie is trying to say this is a physically abusive relationship, and it even puts doubt in your mind as to whether there's a physical abuse going on. That's what I thought was a first strike against it, was that there's a scene early on where he's going to get something out of an oven, and he accidentally, we think, hits her, but from her perspective, he totally hit her on purpose. And it's like, we don't need ambiguity on
Sometimes ambiguity can be good in situations where you want to really explore, empathy from quote unquote both sides or whatever. But in a movie like this, with what I assume it's trying to do, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. A Quiet Place Day One.
I loved this movie. I think we were just talking about Tuesday. This movie deals with a lot of the same themes as Tuesday, and it deals with the comfort care that happens at the end of life. It deals with how, when you understand your life is coming to an end, how that changes your perspective, even in events where it's an alien apocalypse, apparently. So like, I thought a lot of that stuff was really sensitively handled and very interesting. And I thought the performances were great. So yeah, these are the kind of sequels I like, when they do something interesting and different, or prequel, I guess, technically in this case.
Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with this, but I can see the good in it for sure. This is one of those where I just like, I don't need to know where this all started, because it's better to not know the beginning and the origin of it. So at least that's where I landed on it.
I can't watch it because she's carrying that cat around, and I've been told that the cat survives, but even watching that, I think, would stress me the hell out.
We are going to be getting into more deeply into the Oscar nominations, but since they're marked down here, I'll go ahead and we'll start A Complete Unknown here, which is nominated for a lot of awards. And definitely needs to be talked about. Me personally, I think Chalamet is really good in it. I don't like the story of this movie really that much. I mean, it's really just about like what he can play at a festival, and that's what the movie. That's you can reduce this movie to that.
Sure.
It's like he defiantly played music that was not made for that festival. The end.
That is a reductive but fair criticism of A Complete Unknown. I love it almost because it takes something that seems so trite to us and makes it this big thing. Because to everybody in that audience and to Bob Dylan himself, it was life or like it was a big deal. And I think that's interesting from an empathy perspective to see what matters to other people, and it says
Right.
something about tribalism. It says something about this idea of gatekeeping, especially like gatekeeping is the real theme of the movie, I think, in that era of Dylan's career. But mostly I just find the movie supremely entertaining because of the performance, because of the writing. I think Norton is phenomenal in this movie as well. There's just a lot of really great performances and some really fun scenes, which isn't a surprise, considering the director knows how to tell
This
great
James
stories.
Mangold might be
Yep.
might be going places someday.
Yep. Someday.
The Substance, of
Oh
course, has
my.
to be mentioned. One of the definitely one of the most unique experiences of the year, especially its wild ending. I was a tad bit disappointed about this because there's a rule that the movie establishes early on that I do not think they follow through with, and could have been so much more fun had they done it more. However, this is a movie that I am glad that is being recognized by award shows and everything. They need an infusion of stuff like this.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about The Substance is that it feels like forgive the obscure reference, Christian Shaw is a horse of making its point. Like it if you don't know, Christian Shaw as a horse is a gag that goes on so long that it doesn't become funny anymore, and then it becomes funny again, and then not funny, and then fun. Like it just keeps. This movie shoves your face in its message so hard, so many times.
Yeah.
By the end, you're like, how do you go further? And the movie goes further. And there's an element of that again, maybe it gets meaningful again. But I was kind of lost in the space where it just became a little preachy. But it's saying interesting and important things, and that is good. And it is definitely creatively one of the more fascinating movies of the year. So yeah.
This is, this is a great comeback vehicle for Demi Moore, and I'm happy that she's getting some recognition and everything. But it also feels like this is a one-off almost for her. Like I don't know if I see her in like a whole bunch of stuff after this, because this movie's very specific and it has a lot to say about her too. About Demi Moore, if you were just to break this movie down just on her career and everything. So I don't know if that means that she's going to have a renaissance or anything, but hey, rooting for it. That'd be awesome. Going further down, Smile 2. I was actually recommended this movie when I was talking to somebody else about, I was trying to watch as many movies as possible. Smile 2, actually a pretty decent surprise. I wasn't expecting that to be very good at all.
I was shocked how much I liked this movie, because I did not like the original Smile very much at all. And I just think this movie handles the meaning and metaphor that I think they were intending in the first movie, that just felt really muddled to me, and actually a little bit icky at times, the way the first movie handles it. And to put it in this famous pop star's kind of mind space, I think works so much better. And my goodness, she is incredible in this movie. Naomi Scott is the performance here is just astonishing. And a movie that goes along well with The Substance, believe it or not. Yeah, sure.
It's a strange little connection. Speak No Evil, you have marked on here as another good one.
Yeah, again, another big surprise for me in the horror genre. And I don't know if that's solely because of the central performance, which I just think is astonishing. But I think it handles its horror movies have a problem with handling the reality of the situation for its characters. A lot of times characters don't act in the way that you feel like a normal human being would act. And I feel like this movie does a really good job of having the characters act in normal ways to what's going on.
It's a horror movie about your own tendency to be polite. Like you're like, where's the line? And do you allow someone to push your line even further back if they have like some more explanations, even though they've crossed a line that shouldn't if you shouldn't that you shouldn't stay with those people or hang out with those people anymore. And that was the biggest statement of that movie for me, was like, because I've been there before, where it's like I'm being polite, and then suddenly someone just like they just keep encroaching on that, and you're just like, oh, okay, I can see this is never going to be better. The another one you got marked here, It's What's Inside. I'm going to tell this is one thing I want to say about It's What's Inside. I'm after seeing Bodies, and several other party movies or people gathering at a house or whatever. I'm really tired of the character introductions in these movies. They're so bad. It's like every time it's like it always seems like there's someone in there that's like too excitable, and there's always someone in there who's just like and it's like everybody, all these friends always have like this interconnected romantic thing going on with them and everything. And I'm like, I don't know. I led a boring life, I'm sure, but like, I don't remember my big group of friends having this many sexual connections in my life. But anyway, It's What's Inside is a fascinating movie. It's not great, but it's fascinating for sure.
I agree. It's like concept movie of the year for me. Like the concept, I go like, oh, I love this concept, and I love how the movie decides to present this concept, and I like the turn in the middle of the movie of what it does with this concept that I did not see coming. And that is enough, for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm on board. This is fun.
Movie I saw recently that you have marked here, Kneecap, is phenomenal.
Yeah,
great
it is.
Movie.
Talk about
great
it, Chris.
Movie. There's actually I'm gonna put both of these kind of together because I was not expecting these to be great, but Kneecap and Better Man, which is way better than I would have ever thought it would. I mean, I was another jaw-dropping experience, but these are both docudramas or biopics in some way, but they don't feel like biopics. They don't feel like, let's stage this thing that was momentous in their careers and like just kind of do a paint by numbers type of thing with it or whatever. Kneecap reminded me a little bit of like Train Spotting in spots. It's kind of a fever dream kind of a movie. And a topic that I never thought, I didn't know that there was a big thing about Irish language rights, but they somehow made that really interesting and entertaining as well. But Irish rappers rapping in Irish, I didn't realize this would be so good. It is. It's awesome.
I'm so glad you loved it. Yeah, this one blew me away too. And I think it does have something to do with just by the way, this is based on a true story, and it's actually the people from that story that are the actors in this movie, which is, this Irish rap group who raps in actual Irish. So, I found it really, really captivating because of the art of it, just because of the how much I enjoyed the songs and enjoyed the human beings and the performances and, kind of what they went through. So yeah, Kneecap's great.
All right, so now we're bookending this with a lot of Oscar-nominated stuff. These are some of the big heavy hitters that we have not talked about on this. We will start with The Brutalist, which, it's a 3.5 hour movie, so it's going to be a hard no for some off immediately. I loved The Brutalist until after there's a scene. In fact, after the intermission, they go and they look at this Italian marble, and it's just a fantastic moment in the movie, and it goes completely downhill for me after this part. And there's a part that, we don't want to spoil it or anything like that, but for me, I felt like it took the subtext into to almost way too literal and way too it was just way too much for me. So in the end, The Brutalist was a movie that almost was like one of my favorite movies of the year.
I feel kind of the same way. I don't think I was as high on it in the first half as you were, but I was enjoying myself. But yeah, I don't think I agree with you on that choice. I don't like that choice. And it kind of taints the movie for me from there. And
Mhm.
also, this movie is full of misery.
Yes, it is. And the score of this movie is phenomenal, though. I hope it wins. I hope it wins the Oscar. What did you think of the?
I liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it. I think it has some interesting things to say about the can be destructive nature of what it means to actually create art or to create your vision, I guess I should say. Like, there's some visionary fable going on here that I thought was interesting. I thought Adrian Brody was great. So it wasn't like I was actively disengaged, but there was nothing about it that elevated it to that level for me where I was thinking about it for days afterwards or anything like that. It was just, it was an epic story told in an epic way. And that's, what makes it
Yeah, took a huge swing and hit a double, basically.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that's right. Seems fair.
Perfect.
The next one on the list is Conclave.
Oh, I literally just watched this last night. Expertly acted. I did not have a great time, but I think it is a high quality film.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch these final few days. It's kind of getting a little bit of that pre-Oscar, like, wait, could it actually be Conclave that wins Best Picture? Because I think it won at the SAGs. It won Best Ensemble.
Yeah,
and in surprise years, apparently Best Ensemble can be predictive. Like Coda won Best Ensemble, and that was a surprise. Parasite, I think, was the same. So there's some people talking about it that way. I think it's phenomenal. I think Ralph Fiennes, as always, is incredible in this. My second time through, I was really focused on his performance and just how nuanced it is. There's so much going on underneath the conversations he's having that you are able to read in him. I'm really impressed with the cast here. I think the movie has more to say than I realized the first time through about the very specific issue. I'm trying not to spoil because I think
that's a big one.
The way this movie ends recontextualizes the movie in so many ways that my second time through, I was blown away by how that had been not necessarily hinted at, but had been a part of the thread of it the entire time. The issues involved there have been. So I just think that's really smart, really well done. The movie is about what you think it's about, and it's also about what you didn't realize it was about, which is, I think, impressive.
Another big favorite possibly to win Best Picture is Anora, which I small recommended a couple weeks ago. I'm a huge fan of Anora. I'm a huge fan of Mikey Madison's performance in this. Also, the guy who plays Igor in this is I could really literally watch those two for another 2-hour movie, and it would be fantastic to me. But this is it feels like a quick rise for Mikey Madison, who, if you've only been watching movies, I know that she's been on some TV shows and everything. You saw her in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You saw her in Scream. And now you're seeing her as an Oscar-nominated actress in this big movie. So I think in this one, we're finally getting to see like the more range that she has, because the other two movies focused a little bit more on the psychotic aspects of her range. So what do you guys think of Anora?
Oh, well, I thought it was a wild ride. I enjoyed it all the way through. About halfway through the movie, it becomes something completely different than what I was expecting. And I enjoyed that surprise turn. So I loved it. It's one of my favorites of the year. I don't like any of the people in it. Like, I end up rooting for her because gives a great performance, and I think there's reasons enough to root for her, but she makes so many bad choices, and Sean Baker seems to really relish in making movies about people who make bad choices.
Yep, that's his thing.
That's his wheelhouse. But it's my favorite of his movies, and I really like Florida Project. But yeah, it's just a wild ride, unlike anything I've ever seen, and that's kind of my jam these days.
Once I realized how much of a comedy it was, I think I liked it better. It's really funny. There are some things that happen with just the comedy of errors of characters and how they're. I'll just say the scene specifically where they are trying to subdue her is one of the funniest things
Absolutely.
I've seen.
So
it's
good.
just
Absolutely.
so
I
good
also
and
love
so funny.
that they thought, we're looking for a Russian in New York City. Let's just start going places. Because maybe in a city of 12 million people, we'll luck ourselves into him.
Well,
I just thought
that's
that
how
was,
simple that dude was, though. He was.
No, I agree.
He would be at any. Am I freezing?
You did, but now you're back.
Now you're
Okay.
back.
Well,
I'm seeing stuff I don't want to see. But yeah. Anyway, I loved it. I'm glad that you guys pretty much loved it too. Nickel Boys, a movie with a unique perspective. I really enjoyed this one. Unfortunately, it's got some really depressing subject matter, but stuff that you probably need to hear in your life. Really good movie here.
Yeah, this is a concept movie in some ways as well. And for the first, I'm going to say 15 to 20 minutes, I was like, oh, this concept is kind of hindering my ability to enjoy this movie. And then the movie makes some choices that shifted my understanding of how metaphorical the concept was and the ideas that it was dealing with identity and how you see yourself and how and then some of the choices are just blew me away. This is one of those movies that if I'm in a different position and I'm not paying attention or I'm not zoned in the same way, I can see myself going, this is kind of artsy, a little pretentious, those kind of things. But I was locked in, man. And I think the art in this movie specifically, feeds the story so well and the metaphors that are going on so well, or allegory is probably a better word to say.
Yeah.
But so yeah, on a narrative level and on that allegory level, I was blown away with the choices it was making.
We got 6 more Oscar nominated pictures to go real quick, and then we'll do our best of after this. The whipping boy, I guess. I don't know. This is probably the wrong term to use of the Oscar season. Is Amelia Perez, and with good reason. It's not good. It's not a very good movie at all, and yet it has been showered with 13 Oscar nominations. I feel like there are so many more deserving movies that should have been looked at over this one. I feel like Zoe Saldana is like still the favorite to win Best Actress. Is that right in this?
I think so. Yeah.
But I don't know about anything else. This was sweeping awards until like the people started talking. The actual people started talking outside the movie, and things or stuff was discovered that they had said back in the day.
I was very nervous for Critics' Choice. I did not vote for this movie. I didn't like it before I knew stuff, and our voting was done so early because our voting was done before, a week before the fires broke out, right? And so like our voting had already been done before a lot of this stuff came out or whatever. And then I was just anything but Amelia Perez, please, for Best Picture, anything but Amelia Perez. So I was very very happy to see Honora win Best Picture at Critics' Choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of this is an all-timer, and like a lot of people are comparing this to something like Crash or Green Book. Crash and Green Book are 15 times better than this movie. So I don't even agree with those comparisons.
Right.
Going down the list further, Nosferatu, that's a movie I didn't like at all. I guess I liked it okay. I thought the visuals were okay. I didn't understand the reasoning behind making another Nosferatu. I see what they did differently with the story, and that's the message of the movie, but I wasn't a big fan of it.
Neither was I. I mean, it's interesting to look at.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm Still Here, which is nominated for Best Picture and Best Foreign Language Film. Really good movie. Really good performances in this one. Only thing for me, this is not the movie's fault. It felt a lot like the movie a couple of years ago called Argentina 1985, which had the
Yes.
same kind of subject matter
Mm.
in it. Not to say that anybody's suffering is any worse than anybody else's or anything. It's just the fact is, I saw a movie that was just like this 2 years ago, and now you're watching it again, essentially, and it's like, people just be stupid and evil. That's what it is.
I think we're learning a lot of that.
Yeah.
Ironically, or maybe not ironically, I use that word incorrectly all the time.
Mhm.
But I kind of like the movie for the same reason. In that, I feel like this is a message we need to keep telling. Nobody
Yeah.
is above the destruction and pain of a government that chooses fascism, that chooses the idea of power over, consolidating power over dispersing power. It is a message we continually need to hear. And
Absolutely.
to see these countries, go through this, I think every person needs to go, hey, could be my country too. Like it happens.
Isn't it already?
I was trying not to, necessarily go full throated in that direction, but yeah,
I don't see any other way. I mean, I'm not trying to derail us. What's the next movie?
No, I agree with you. Next movie. Sing Sing. Really, really good movie here. Really enjoyed this. Coleman Domingo, I think he's been nominated twice in a row now, 2 years in a row. And it feels like after that special episode of Euphoria that they came out with during COVID, this guy is shot up into the stratosphere, and with good reason. He's so freaking good. It's funny, you can put this movie Sing Sing with A Different Man and with Ghostlight, and there's a lot of the same things going through a lot of these movies, and that was one of the things that I was thinking about connecting all these three at one point. But Sing Sing, really awesome movie, and Coleman Domingo and the whole rest of the cast of this is fantastic.
Totally agree. Art as therapy. Yeah, there was definitely a theme this year with a few movies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we have A Real Pain, which is the Kieran Culkin. I mean, everybody loved Kieran Culkin in Succession, and now this is sort of the culmination of that. This is a wildly inventive character that I think Eisenberg and Culkin have come up with together and everything. And this is probably one of the most unforgettable performances I've seen this year. I think he's definitely getting the Oscar for this. So Real Pain, real good movie.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg, one to watch.
Yeah.
Now that I have internet, I can download the sub file and watch that movie.
And then we have The Apprentice, which is the Donald Trump movie, which is what we're going to end on, apparently. This is a really well done movie, I think. Another one that's just like chock full of great performances. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, let's see, I'm gonna look at this up real quick. This knows is good radio. I think Jeremy Strong is in direct competition with his Succession co-star Kieran Culkin in this category, which is an interesting thing. Oh my God, is Jeremy Strong good in this movie? I keep saying this about every performance he does, but Sebastian Stan is also amazing in this as well. But I agree with both of you guys that he probably should have been nominated for A Different Man over this one. But yeah, I enjoyed The Apprentice. I thought that was a unique look into Donald Trump's life that didn't involve the presidency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to say it.
There are a few others that are on here that I'll just quickly mention. Late Night with the Devil was an early horror entry that I thought was unique and interesting, and it may not be the best of movies, but it was certainly a good. I thought it was a good swing, and ultimately I enjoyed what they did with that. Hard Truths. It's criminal that Marianne Jean-Baptiste was not nominated.
Best performance of the year, in my opinion.
Easily one of the best, and a character that is so hard to love, but but the performance is amazing in it. In a Violent Nature is a horror movie that I thought had a great concept that they completely ruined. I just wanted to mention that one. I thought this could have been fantastic, but then they, about 10 minutes into the movie, went away from the thing that was making it unique. And then there's a whole final 15-20 minutes that just decides, well, we don't have anything else to say here.
Nope.
So
we'll just be a different movie now.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, on this list of stuff that was marked, Dee Dee was a movie that Aaron recommended to me, and I watched it. I loved Dee Dee, a great coming of age story. Talk about someone that is hard to love throughout this entire thing, but it's about growing up, and it's not like the usual coming of age type of stuff that we see where there's a lot of highs and lows. There's a lot of lows in this one, but it's funny. It's a funny movie and entertaining at the same time. So definitely want to talk about that. There are a ton of others, but we are now at the precipice on this one. I think we went through all the ones that we marked, and let's talk about what our best movie of 2024 is.
Remind me,
Jeremy?
how do we only need 2 of the 3? Is that how it works?
Yeah, if 2 of the 3 state their favorite movie at the beginning, then that's going to be the favorite movie of Recotopia.
I'm just worried that more than any year prior, I'm going to mess this up with my plebeian ass.
Whatever.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
My favorite movie of the year is Civil War.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Aaron, what is yours?
My favorite movie of the year is Conclave.
Ooh, we are definitely going to have a second vote. And you guys probably will not have guessed my favorite movie of the year, but my favorite movie of the year was Hundreds of Beavers.
Oh, that's great.
Good.
Love it.
Still is, after all this, I think it was the most inventive movie of the year. All right. What was your second favorite movie of the year, Jeremy?
Furiosa.
Ooh, okay. Aaron?
My second favorite movie of the year was Inside Out 2.
We're going so deep.
We are going to go deep on this. My second favorite movie of the year was Nickel Boys. What was your third favorite movie of the year, Jeremy?
I feel like Nickel Boys or Conclave is going to get it. Wild Robot was my third favorite movie of the year.
Oh, good call. Good call.
All right. My third favorite movie of the year was Nickel Boys.
There you go.
Ooh. Whoa. I think that's going to be a winner.
Calls a winner
on this one. My third favorite of the year, I don't know if I got that far down yet. But man, what would it be?
Just don't say Conclave or we're tied again.
No, it's not going to be Conclave. It's definitely not that. You know what? I'm gonna give love to a Real Pain again here. I think that would be my third. But it looks like Nickel Boys is our winner for 2024. That's pretty amazing. I would not have predicted that. But yeah, such a good movie and something that deserves to be seen. Only got nominated for 2 Oscars. It should definitely be seen by as many people as possible. But I liked all yours, Jeremy. You don't need to worry about that.
Those are great choices.
Those are all good choices.
All right.
I had Furiosa at 7. I had Hundreds of Beavers at 8. So we're
I mean, I had all the ones you guys listed in my top. I listed 11, but it's not in the same order.
Yep.
Okay. That is not it completely. It's it completely for me and Jeremy. We're going to go away. But Aaron is going to answer any of you guys' questions about movies we did not mention this year, because he has seen them all and has an opinion about them all, and he's ready to answer you. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you, chat, once again for coming out here and spending time with us for this 2 hours and 8 minutes that we've done so far. And obviously you're going to continue. Some of you are going to continue after this, but I'm going to sign off, and Jeremy's going to sign off, and Aaron will stay here. So I will see you later. See ya. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
But not bye, guys. Yeah. So, what movies do you guys want to talk about? Just throw them out in the chat, and if there's any that we missed that you were like, "Hey, let's have a conversation about this." We've done this the last couple years. So let's start with PTAX says, "Oh, lots of them popping up. Hold on, let me make sure I can get to these." PTAX says, "Has Aaron seen Thelma?" Yes, I have seen Thelma. I loved Thelma. In fact, it was one of the movies I encouraged Chris to watch, and I think he did. And I think it is a really fun movie. And a really good watch. And I actually would have loved to have seen June Squibb get some acting mentions through the whole season, because I think she is incredible in that movie. So yeah, Thelma was definitely one. Hi, Link. How are you? Let's see. Nolan says, Aaron, Letterboxd considers it a 2023 release, but Red Rooms. Yeah, I actually didn't see Red Rooms until just a few weeks ago. I didn't love it, but I get the love for it for sure. So yeah, definitely one worth paying attention to. Monkey Man, I think is it Monkey Man a 2025 movie? I haven't seen it yet, whatever it is. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was a big one that we just kind of brushed over as one of those that was in the box office or whatever. I actually really like the Planets of the Apes movies. I think Kingdom was a fun watch. I enjoy the technology. I enjoy the ability to create that world. And I enjoy the concepts of polarization through the idea of species as opposed to race or gender or those kind of things. I think that makes it's very fertile for that metaphor. Love it. Yes, His Three Daughters. I wanted to talk about this one. I actually had a list of movies that neither of them had seen that I wanted to recommend, and His Three Daughters was one of them. I think it could be argued that the performances in His Three Daughters are three of the best performances of the year. Natasha Lyonne, Carrie Coon, and Elizabeth Olsen all give absolutely astonishing performances in Three Daughters. So His Three Daughters. So yeah, I'd recommend that one. I actually think that movie's really, really good. Nolan says, how about Problemista? I remember it being it's been so long since I've seen Problemista. I remember it being interesting, and that I didn't love it, but I loved some of the things that it did. But yeah, the fact that I don't remember a ton about it is probably an indication that it didn't stand out to me, maybe as some others would have. Let's see. No, Link, we didn't talk about Gladiator 2, and I'm glad you brought it up. I really liked it. I am an easy sucker for IP mining. I love Gladiator. So if you're going to throw me a new Gladiator story that's in that universe and you're going to tie it in the way that you did, I'm going to probably have a good time. I thought it was a little bit ridiculous at times. I thought Denzel was amazing. I thought that performance was incredible. And I really liked, personally, the central performance there. So yeah, I thought Gladiator 2 was good. I think I had it at number 18 on the year, and Paul Mescal is I liked it. I know some people didn't like that version. Didn't think it lived up to like Russell Crowe-ian standards, but I actually liked that it was a little bit different. So yeah, Gladiator 2 was good. Let's see. Nolan says Greedy People and Knox Goes Away were two I enjoyed that a lot of people probably didn't see, including me. I don't think I saw either of those, so I'll have to get those on the list. P-Tech says Dakota Johnson, Am I Okay? Yes, really dug Am I Okay? I was trying to remember. I think that landed on my list somewhere, although maybe not, because is Am I Okay technically a 2023? I can't remember. It all flows together so much. but it's really good and really interesting, and I think speaks to something in modern culture that is hard to speak to in an authentic way, but it does it really well and really authentically. So, Am I Okay was great. Yes, Nolan, Megalopolis. That's one we probably should have just mentioned, just because of how crazy that story is, right? Just the Francis Ford Coppola ness of it all. I will always dig artists like speaking what they need to speak, creating what they need to create, and clearly Coppola had some things he wanted to say about America being Rome. Things, by the way, I'm not saying he's even wrong about. It was just bad. Like, I guess that's too reductive. It was, for me, hard to engage in. I thought Shia was fine. I thought Aubrey Plaza was amazing. So, like, there's performances that I can kind of connect to, but it's so nakedly a metaphor for modern America that it just became a lot of, yeah, well, duh. And because the things they were saying weren't that new or interesting to me, even in the context he was saying them, it just felt weird. And, listen, who among us doesn't want to go to the club and have fun? But yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I did not see Y2K, Link. That one missed me. The Bike Riders. PTAC also throwing out The Bike Riders. I think I liked this one more than most. Trying to quickly scan where it was in my list. I'm not seeing it, but yeah, Bike Riders. Jodie Comer, right? That performance is so good, in my opinion, and gives that movie a foundation to the message about ideas of masculinity, ideas of those kind of things. That I was really on board. I was just really on board on seeing what the movie had to say, how it was going to say it. Yeah, I liked The Bike Riders. Let's see. Long Legs and Strange Darling, 2 horrors. I enjoyed 2 horrors. I did not. Not that that's a surprise. I'm not. As much as I said Smile 2 was a big surprise and Speak No Evil was a big surprise, part of the reason they're a big surprise is because I don't generally connect to horror movies. And that is the case with Long Legs. I think Long Legs was, I'm going to say this harshly, all style, no substance. There's just the things that it's doing in that world building make no sense, and I couldn't attach any kind of connective meaning to them. This is me personally, that I was just like, okay, cool, Nicolas Cage is being Nicolas Cage, yay. I don't know, Long Legs didn't get me. Strange Darling, I think, is maybe, in my opinion, one of the strangest movies I've seen a lot of love for. I don't know why people like that movie, because the things that movie is saying don't seem all that great to me, and seem really, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance there that I don't think is necessary for what it's trying to do. And I think what it's trying to do, without giving anything away, was so obvious for me from the beginning that I was distracted by how bad a message I think that movie has. So yeah, Strange Darling didn't work for me at all. Shaggy Nuts says Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's a sequel that did what sequels are supposed to do. I actually think it's better than I think it's more understanding its characters in the second one more than in the first one. And so because of that, I think it's a more fun ride for me in Frozen Empire. I think it feels more like a Ghostbusters movie than the reboot, like the first reboot did. So I actually like it. I like it okay. Blake mentions Fresh. I think that was a couple years ago, but I did like Fresh quite a bit. Yeah, we didn't talk about Joker 2, Folie à Deux. At least I don't remember talking about it. And that's probably because none of us really liked it. And it's a weird thing when a director seems to make a movie specifically to say, hey, people who liked my movie for this reason, I'm going to make a movie you're going to hate. I don't know. There's something curious about that. There's something fascinating about that. But it doesn't mean it's a fun, good movie to watch. It's not. But I didn't like the first one either. So I don't know. Yeah, the Joker thing is just missed me. Let's see. I did not see The Last Stop in Yuma County. I have heard good things. I should get it on my list. Turtles All the Way Down. I liked it. I actually thought it was really interesting, and that's kind of another forgotten one from 2024. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I was trying to think. Let me look up the cast on that one real quick, because I wanted to shout out. Yes, Isabella Merced is really good in that, and I just think there's some interesting things going on there that make it feel like not the same old growing up tale. It does some different things. Coming of age, that's what I was trying to think of. It's not the same old coming of age kind of movie. It does some things that are different and interesting and make it feel a little more authentic to me. So yeah, I like Turtles All the Way Down. James says, Cattle Lake. Not sure if you covered it on the show proper. I don't know if I mentioned it either on the show proper, but I loved it. The most M. Night movie of the year that M. Night didn't direct. And take that for what it's worth. But I really, really enjoyed how it answered everything it felt like it needed to answer about its world building. Didn't answer things that it wasn't interested in answering, and played by all the rules that it set forth. I really like Cattle Lake. Shaggy says, I wanted to watch Borderlands in theaters, but the reviews were so bad. That's a good one to miss. I agree with the bad reviews. Although I will say, one of the key parts of what people didn't like about that movie, I completely disagree with, which is I actually think it was cast really well. In fact, I think possibly the only thing I liked about that movie was Cate Blanchett as Lilith. And I know a lot of people hate that, so take that for what it's worth, but I thought she was great. I thought she was the only reason I even had some fun with that movie. Let's see. Craven and Madam Web. I mean, I don't know. Sony's just messed that up so bad. I don't even know how they thought that those were movies worth releasing. They're just so bad. Those movies, and Venom 3 was so bad. Yeah. I kind of hope they just stop. Just stop, Sony. Maybe do the Spider-Verse, finish off the Spider-Verse. Maybe not. Apparently that's going to take forever. I don't know. Whatever. Nolan mentions Argyle, one of my disappointing of the year. Well, guess what? Loved it. One of my favorite movies of the year. Way in the minority on this. I cried. It moved me so much. There's things that movie is saying and doing about how relationships age and how we see ourselves in relationships and how people age and how just because, we are different than we used to be doesn't mean that there isn't a beauty to who we can be to each other and for each other. I found some stuff there that maybe wasn't even intended, but it meant a lot to me. Shaggynet says, my wife loves Red One. Good. I love it when people love movies. Red One I don't know. It's harmless. It's fun. I had enough fun with Red One. It's kind of terrible as a movie. Like if you're talking, awards, that kind of stuff, but whatever. Have a fun time. PTAC, we did mention Dee Dee there towards the end. Chris mentioned it, but I loved it as well. Let's see. Is Aaron assigning next week's homework? Good call. We didn't assign homework for next week, did we? I don't know. Maybe we'll have to have Jonathan cut this part into the podcast for assigning homework before all the outtakes. Or do we leave it in the outtakes? People need to know what the homework is for next week. So yeah. Jonathan, maybe put this in the show proper at the end. Oh, before everybody goes and we get to the outtakes, I did want to say that the homework for next week is I've forgotten. So give me just a second to remember what that is. Oh, I remember now. Okay. Wait, before you go and we get to the outtakes, just one more thing. Homework for next week is Unstoppable. That's right. The Denzel Washington, Chris Pine train movie is going to be the big recommend for next week. All right, on to the outtakes. Okay. Cut that in, Jonathan. We should be fine. All right. Let's see. All right. Have I missed any here? The Idea of You. Was that Anne Hathaway, right? The May December romance kind of thing, which there were a couple this year. I thought it was fine. I didn't love it. I think Anne Hathaway makes any project better. I think she's phenomenal. So yeah. And let's see, The Outrun. That's Saoirse Ronan, right? I thought it was fine. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was interesting, but I didn't think it elevated. So I haven't really been talking about it as one of my favorites. But yeah, I thought that was fine. And okay. Unstoppable was Jeremy's pick. I think it's fine that that's not in there. All right. Oh, Piece by Piece. This was the PTAC says Piece by Piece. That was the documentary with that was in Legos, and I actually thought it was really good. Interestingly enough, the reason that they went with Legos, by the way, it's a Pharrell. It's a documentary of a biopic of Pharrell. I liked the information, the stuff I learned. I enjoyed learning more about his career and listening to the music and, you know, contextualizing it through his career and eyes. The Lego thing, I think, as stated in the movie, was intended to be this idea of how it felt more like you could fully understand the creative art of what it means, and I think it did the opposite, honestly. I think it limited my ability to connect emotionally to any of the stories, any of the processes. There are some emotional and interesting things that Pharrell talks about that I just couldn't connect to because I'm not designed to connect emotionally and empathetically to a Lego brick. That's just not, you can put as many facial expressions on it as you want. That's just not how I connect. And so I think human faces would have been better in a lot of those ways. But it's a fine look at Pharrell's career, and I enjoyed that part of it. I just think it could have been better. Let's see, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I think Eddie Murphy's kind of coming back in a fun and interesting way. I thought he was great on SNL 50, and I think it was fun to go back to the Foley character. So yeah, I thought Beverly Hills Cop Axel F was fine. Yeah, it was really fun. Blink Twice is really interesting. PTAC mentions Blink Twice. Channing Tatum is good in it. Good performances, really interesting metaphors. Satire. Yeah, I thought Blink Twice worked. Self-Reliance I didn't think worked as well. That's the what's his name from New Girl? Jake, right? Johnson, is it? Jake Johnson? Yeah, Jake Johnson. Yeah, Self-Reliance is Jake Johnson, Anna Kendrick. It's been a while since I've seen this one. I don't remember loving it. I remember thinking, oh, that's fine. That's okay. PTAC mentions Maria. I don't think anybody saw Maria except people who had to vote in awards because of the push for Angelina Jolie as that character. And I think it's very unforgettable other than her performance. I really do, which is unfortunate. Shaggy Nuts mentions Unfrosted, the Jerry Seinfeld comedy. I think probably bringing it up just as a way to make me admit that I kind of like that movie. Kind of. Just kind of. I don't think it's great, hilarious, most hilarious thing ever. I just kind of thought that some of the stuff was funny. Okay? Leave me alone. I can like stuff. Nolan, Trap was not mentioned. That one did not come up. I briefly considered marking it as one that I wanted to make sure to talk about, but honestly, talking about M. Night movies feels so repetitive because it's all kind of the same thing. Like you either get his aesthetic or you don't in many ways. And I thought Trap was really fun, but I get his aesthetic. I like that he treats his movies as as tales, as fairy tales in many ways, and doesn't feel beholden to the same rules as real world movies. And that's, I don't know. I like Trap. What can I say? Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim was a letdown. That was a disappointment. I'll watch anything Lord of the Rings, but I felt it was cheap. Honestly, I felt like the animation was cheap, and I don't know. That was a tough one. Didn't like that one. Nolan mentions A Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Really dug it. Liked it. Had a great time with that. Really funny movie. Really funny movie. So yeah, I had a good time with that one. One of my favorites of the year. Shaggy says there was a Garfield movie. I think that's probably all that needs to be said about that. It made some money. And it happened. It was not good. All right. Well, I think I probably did miss some, and I apologize for that. They were kind of coming fast and furious. Although there was no Fast and Furious movie. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you guys hanging around and chatting movies a little bit more. On to more outtakes or not. I don't know. What's up to Jonathan? Your call, Jonathan. Okay, bye. Love you guys. Have a good day.